Hi, everyone, and welcome to the podcast SheLeadsTech. Today, we are talking to Ingrid Hernandez Remedios, who is a senior IT executive at the University of Ottawa with over 15 years of experience leading technology teams and strategic initiatives across both the private sector and higher education. She has built a career at the intersection of technology, people, and purpose, driving digital transformation, operational excellence, and collaborative innovation. Ingrid holds a bachelor's degree in computer science and a master's in applied mathematics, complemented by agile certifications and leadership programs focused on the unique context of higher education. As an immigrant to Canada, she understands firsthand the resilience and determination required to rebuild a career in a new country. Ingrid is deeply committed to mentoring women and newcomers, championing inclusive leadership, and creating spaces where diverse voices are heard and empowered. She believes in the power of community, lifelong learning, and radical collaboration to create lasting impact. Ingrid, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Julie, for having me. And thank you to ISACA and the SheLeadsTech community for this invitation. I think it's very important to have a space that, amplifies the women's voices, especially in this industry. And I want to thank you.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you. And maybe for a start, you could tell us a bit more about your trajectory and maybe what drew you to a career in IT.
Julie, as you read my bio, I grew up in Cuba. I had I have a father that he's a mathematician, so he was a professor in math. I grew up in a family where the technical, the numbers, the math, it was all that I heard. So that fostered my love for science. So I pursued, like, since high school, special interest groups in mathematics, and then that led me to computer science because I wanted to be able to apply all this theory and knowledge. So that's why I went to IT, and I graduated for computer science from the University of Havana.
And then you decided to move to North America.
Yes. So in early in my career, me and my husband decided that we wanted to pursue our life and build our family away from Cuba. So we decided to immigrate to Canada, and then that led me to continue in my career here in Canada, having various jobs in the private industry as a software developer, leading development teams, and then later on, I came back to the higher education sector again because of what got fostered from my father, from myself when I graduated, and my first job experience in Cuba was also in the university sector. So I was happy to come back and pay forward here at the University of Ottawa in an IT job.
So you felt a call from higher ed again. Is that right?
Yes, yes. And also to continue to grow in my career in a leadership role, I also realized that, you know what, it represents well both things that I love and I'm passionate about, which is the higher education sector, the having the opportunity to drive how we build the citizens of tomorrow and improve our societies, and also doing it by using technology, right? So in helping teams support that.
And I want to go back to talking a bit about your years at school. So you were drawn to a major where men are usually more represented, and your career is in a field that's traditionally a bit more male dominated as an environment. And so I was wondering how you've been feeling about this, what the experience was like for you, if you felt anything about it. And I wanted to know also what your advice would be for young women students and early women career who enter an environment where there might be less women around them.
Absolutely. And I think I've been in those type of environments again since early on in my studies, because I was in a group that was dedicated to students that were more into like elite mathematics and whatnot. And we had very low ratio of like girls to boys at the time. Then going into university, same approach, way less women than we had men studying computer science. And I never saw that as something that would detriment my interest or make me feel less confident about what I would be able to do. On the contrary, they were all my peers. We were all studying together. We were all learning together. And for me, if anything, that was always an opportunity to learn from one another, to push ourselves further. And I think there's nothing better than healthy competition, at least for me. And that motivates me and pushes me to continue to raise the bar for what I know and what I'm capable of.
And so for women who wouldn't know how to handle the situation, would your advice be, or who don't quite know yet, right? But would your advice be something like accept the competition or join the competition if that's a drive for you? Or
I think ultimately it's you're competing with yourself for the most part. And I would say you lean into what you know, into your power. You're a woman in a world that maybe there's a lot more men than women. That's okay. It's actually an asset because you're different. You bring something that they don't have, right? So as long as you know yourself, you're confident in what you know and you're capable of, I think that success, it's all on you. So I honestly I encourage that and never give up. And if you need to get support, then we have one another, right? Like to build that community, to build that support and to share each other's experiences and bring us through. So
and I'm thinking about going back to the introduction that I shared with our listeners at first. You talked about prioritizing mentorship, and I was wondering how that looks like for you, if there's a few things you would want to share with us.
I think throughout my studies, I was lucky enough to get professors that would also recognize your abilities and that want to build you and want to support you. So that was the first exposure to that. And maybe at the time we don't realize, but we need again to lean into that, to leverage that. So to learn from those experiences. And then when you hit your career in terms of like the labor market and job opportunities you may have, same things like how can we learn from the peers we have, the bosses we would have either male or female bosses. I think we can learn from anyone. It's all about the people and their approach and leveraging that allyship that they will bring to us, especially when they're in a position of power and the position of influencing. If they can sponsor us, and I've been lucky enough also to have great bosses that have sponsored me throughout my career. So they're able to bring you forward even when you're not in the room, right? So they're gonna talk about you, they're gonna recommend you, they're gonna share opportunities with you. Don't hesitate. Pursue that, seek that actively. Make sure you're able to name that because it may happen organically. You may not be able to identify it, but it's there and it plays also a big role into our career progression and development.
And allyship is something that I want us to go back to later on. So what I hear you say is we also need to be attentive to what's happening around us and to seek interactions, right?
Absolutely. And I think at first it might be a lot of like the individual work that we are doing to develop in our career. The more we hit our like career, actually like working your labor environment again, like it's more about teamwork than it is your individual contributions and then it is your individual development. Yes, it's important to do that, to be self-aware, to work on your own growth. It's also important to understand that we're in a team environment and that we can't accomplish anything alone. Like we really need to work with others. How do we build those relationships? How do we seek that? Because that's going to help us in our career. And it's important to identify that. And again, leaning in your powers, but not going all at it by yourself. Like know what you can do and get also help. And it's okay to get help and support from others too.
I love that you said that because I wanted to ask you about your leadership style. And what I hear is that promoting teamwork might be part of that leadership style you developed. But what are the strategies that you have to efficiently lead a team? How do you envision yourself as a leader? And then maybe are there any people you took inspiration from with all the roles that led up to you being where you're at now?
I think it's very truly because like throughout my career, both in the private sector and also in the public sector and the higher education, I've been again fortunate enough to have great leaders from whom I have learned both what I aspire to do and what I think is the no-go as well. And I think it's important to be able to identify that. I think in terms of like leadership style, in terms of culture as well, it's important that there's a good fit with the way you are, again, to lean on your powers, be yourself, and the way the organization and the team works. So I think for me, it's more that I build relationships, I build teams, I lean on my empathy and listening to others. So taking the time to really learn what the situation is, how I can best support, how come up with a good solution that compromises and that works for everyone if possible. That's my style, and I think that that fits well with the culture that we have here at the University of Ottawa, where I work, right? And that's what allowed me to continue to grow in my career at the institution. It's that alignment with my own values, my style, and the culture of the institution.
I love that you mentioned empathy, right? Sometimes empathy and listening are two very important things when you want to lead a team effectively, for sure. For context, do you want to tell our listeners what your team does?
So right now I am in the Senior Director IT Solutions role at the university. So I lead a team that is responsible for supporting all the main institutional products at the university. So student information system, products to support students with their life on campus, health and wellness, recreation, food services, you name it. And also on the administrative side, the web presence of the university, the support to alumni, development, donations, so all these key areas of the university. We maintain the institutional products behind that to ensuring their smooth operations and great student experience for all of our community.
Making sure things run smoothly and that it doesn't call attention onto itself. It's hard.
Exactly. Plus that we continue to innovate and be in touch with what's going on with the industry. IT moves so quickly, like changes move so quickly. It's constantly evolving. So we need to make sure we keep up and we stay ahead.
Has there been like a challenge or something new that came up recently in terms of innovation and fast-paced? Is there something that your team had to deal with recently that you would?
Well, I think that this couldn't be an IT podcast if I don't talk about AI, right? So I think that this is the word of the day, what we're all dealing with, how to leverage artificial intelligence into our day-to-day works, into our business functions at the university to increase productivity, to increase quality, to enable for a better student experience, better profs, better researcher experience. And I think that's a challenge that we're all dealing with today because it's so new that we're all kind of like at the same stage of learning and exploring this technology.
Has there been something that excited you in that respect? Something you found really great that you would be willing to share?
Well, totally exciting is the fact that when I see what AI is capable of doing today, from like having an idea to deploying to a production environment for an application, it's jaw dropping, honestly. And we look forward to continue to play with that and integrate it more into our operational activities for sure.
Yeah, I bet it's a fun time. A lot of challenges, but a very fun time.
It is.
I want to go back to our conversation of allyship, and if that's okay, I want to share something you shared with me before. So you have a partner and you have two kids, is that right? Two children?
I do, yes.
And you talked about how your husband is very invested in supporting your career. So you've been moving up, from what I gather, at a fairly fast pace, and you love your career. And he loves making space for you to be able to do what you got to do and to blossom. And so I was wondering if you were willing to share what that looks like for you all, especially in the small things, right? What does that mean to support your partner in blossoming in their career when you have children?
I'm glad you touched on that because, like professional life is one part of the equation. Personal, it's probably what we do the most of the heavy lifting. I'm lucky enough to have a very supportive husband, and I have two beautiful daughters at a very young age of 9 and 6. So it gets very busy, right? Like it gets very busy. We want them to also have opportunities to do extracurricular activities at night, on weekends. It becomes more difficult than manage sometimes at my own calendar at work about the logistics. And at some point, I feel like we're Uber drivers, just like bringing them around. But it's important, and that's my priority, right? So for me to be able to do everything I do at work, and it's again teamwork at work and at home. So my husband's my team. My parents too, by the way, because sometimes they come here to visit and then they stay for a few months. So that also helps a lot, especially where I have big periods of work. And the fact that, for example, like if I want to go to a conference, if I need to attend a workshop that's offsite, that I have to travel, or that it takes like after hours, a dinner, depends. I always consult with him first, for sure. Like I never decide to go to these events by myself. It's always like consulting, agreeing, planning together, making sure there is a space for what I need to do, but also making sure there's space for what he needs to do. And it might not be necessarily like going to a conference or traveling for work, but it could be that he goes to the gym so he can work out, so he can stay healthy and things like that. So it's a balancing act, and we're in constant communication, making sure that we make it all work. We take a fair share of work at home. We split that. One cooks, the other picks up the girls. One helps with the routine in the morning, the other one in the evening, right? So we're a tag team, and it's going great.
I love that you said communication. Communication is key and is hard, especially when your
Yes,
life gets so busy.
it is.
Um, and I also hear you talking about work-life balance with carving time for working out, for also doing things that are a bit outside the family too.
Absolutely. And this is something that I've heard before, but even in the context of work, I did get it from a leadership program that I'm part of that I started earlier last year, which is the Next Leaders Fellowship from EDUCAUSE. And this is a great program, by the way. And one of the elements that I've learned there is that you need to put your mask on first. Like they say at the airplanes, right? Like you need to make sure you put your own oxygen mask first. You're okay, so you're ready to show up to bring your best so you can help the others. If you're not good, you're not going to be able to help anyone, and that's important both at work and at home. If I'm overloaded at work, I have a lot of pressure, or it brings me stress. If I bring all that home, then I'm not going to be able to show up for my girls as they need me to. So it's important that I also take my time to go to the gym, watch my movie, or go out with a girlfriend. Like that's also key, right? And we try to balance that as much as possible. And both me and my husband, we already understand that, and we help each other to find that balance.
What's a movie you've watched recently? You said watch my movie. And I'm like, what did you watch?
Oh, right now, I'm actually watching a show on Netflix called Younger.
Oh, I
Okay.
love it.
All right, super fun. It's very lightweight. It makes me laugh, and I think that's all I need. That's my best way to really decompress and relax. Is just like doing something that makes me laugh.
And not to promote the show, but it's also interesting to see a woman aging and trying to find her place.
Yes, yes. So I think it's very relevant to what we're actually talking about, right? Because it's also not just about the gender gap or difference in by industry, but also about the age, right? I think as it's a reality as we grow older, it may be harder, especially for a woman that had taken a leave of absence to raise their children, which was the case there in the show.
Mhm.
And that gap in work experience brought her to the point where she's not able to find a job. And that's a reality sometimes some women face, and it's unfortunate, right? Like that's not more understood, that it's okay when women decide to pause their careers to raise their family and then being able to have a way to come back to the workforce.
Yeah.
That's something that maybe should be done to better allow for that.
Yeah, and I think that's why it was important for us also to hear a story of someone who feels supported. I mean, women do what they want if they want to take a break or not, right? But I think hearing that it's possible to have a partner who's a good team player and that you can get that kind of support is really key, I think, and really nice to hear.
Absolutely.
Nice to hear also that
Very
you have the parents.
I'm very lucky, and I appreciate that I have that. And I also acknowledge that not everyone has that opportunity. I do encourage you, if you do, take it, communicate with your partner, with your family, get all the support that you can so you can also be able to advance in your career as you dream and aspire.
And we talked about it before too, but also building community around you when you don't have family because you move for different
Yes.
reasons.
And that has been our case. Like it's just recently that our parents can come and help us more because now they're retired, but before we couldn't count on that either. And we don't have a lot of family here. So we had to build our network of friends through people that are either from Cuba as well, which we either knew before or met through other friends, people from work too that have become really good friends. So build that network and leverage it also. It's a great support because it really truly takes a village, as they say, to be able to raise your children.
Are they becoming little math nerds as well?
We'll see. We'll see. I hope, but I'll let them also make their own choices as much as possible. What I'm trying is to present them with options, right? Like expose them to different areas, different arts, sports, whatnot. So they have a taste for that and then they can decide and find what they love, what they're passionate about, what they're good at, and what they want to pursue later in their career.
And that's how you end up being an Uber driver, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I have no choice.
Continuing on this idea of raising girls and giving them options and maybe also tying it to allyship, I was wondering if you've seen any sort of initiatives that you liked. Are there been some inspiring models in that respect that you would love to share with us?
Like because I have two girls, like I felt that I needed to do something to kind of like help them see the model and help other girls in general. I think that they may be still young enough to understand a lot about technology, but they do get exposure nowadays because technology becomes a commodity, right? Like the phones, the tablets, TVs, whatnot, everything is a little computer in itself. So I'm getting more involved with the Girl Guides of Canada, which is an association that helps girls build in their leadership skills, their life skills, prepare them for life, right? Really. So what I am doing is I am volunteering there as a unit assistant right now. So taking smaller tasks, but support and be involved in these activities they organize. So being going to camps at night, like learning about different careers, learning about like how society works, etc. So I go there and I help out and I see firsthand how we have an opportunity to shape the girls of the future, right? And of course, whenever I can, I squeeze in some technology talk there. But yeah, so that has been something that I've been making the time for because I find that's important. It's a way for me to connect with something that my girls do. And then also in general in the community, I've been also involved with other non-for-profit organizations that have programs for newcomers, specific for women newcomers, more targeted also for women in technology as well. So I get involved there. I've been participating in some mentorship programs that they have and also some just like fireside chats, conversations to help share again my own experience and helping hopefully some of them navigate their challenges as they face immigration, new job market, a new country, language, and so on. So on top of like being a woman in a field that we know that it's sometimes can be challenging to find a job. So
If you had to give our listeners one advice about how to best support women newcomers, what would it be? What is something we don't necessarily think about that you would want Canadians to think about?
it is a great question because like when I arrived, like I don't think I got that initial support or knowledge, and probably because I didn't seek it because I didn't have it. I think that it's more to, and now I think there's more information out there on the internet. Now we have AI, ChatGPT, Gemini, you name it, that you can ask this type of question and get pointed to the resources. And I would say use the resources that are at your disposal because there is a lot of organizations that are helping newcomers, that are helping people enter the job market. So they help you with preparing your resume. They help you connecting you with potential mentors or coaches. They help you with potential employers as well, doing networking events with employers. So that's a great opportunity also to get visibility. Look out for opportunities. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Again, make yourself visible. So I think that that's probably the key, especially in these times where there's so much information everywhere. So leverage that.
It is hard getting to a new country and adapting for sure. Yeah. But I was also thinking, so say I were a person who grew up in Vancouver, a local Vancouverite, right? But I wanted to support newcomers. What could I do to support, especially women newcomers to the country? And I'm thinking that there has to be some challenges that some of us don't think about, right? So how could we best support female newcomers like that?
Yeah, and it's a lot that we don't see because there's a lot that doesn't touch the labor market specifically, right? Like, so you're thinking more like just learning like how the banking system works, how the health system works, like the telephone companies, the housing. Like, there's so many things that you have to figure out that they just necessarily don't work the same way in the country that you're coming from. So that you need to adapt, right? The more we can help and understand that when we meet people this way, they're facing all of these other challenges alongside having to find a job so they can support themselves. I think like showing some empathy towards that as well. And especially as a leader, as a potential employer, or as an employer. Sometimes we hire people that just arrive to Canada too. Is being mindful of that, being empathetic, and then also helping them point to resources that they can leverage. If there's a program for health and wellness, etc., that they can tap into to get more resources, to get more support. Absolutely, present them with other people, right? Like make some introductions to other team members that maybe have gone through the same. And sometimes it's not just having the answers, may not have the answers because you can't relate because you haven't had that life experience, but knowing someone that could identify with the person and they can help them, that's also a strength and a value that we can add and put at people's disposals like that.
I love it. Empathy, connection, creating connections, building community. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I remember the small things, having to learn the small things in new countries. And it's not visible. I think you're right. Also learning how people communicate with one another. It's a different sort of.
And then languages sometimes is a barrier too, because if you come from a country, like in my case, like English and French are not my native language at all. It's a decision that you made, absolutely. But it still takes a toll on you, right? Like as a person, mentally and even physically, because you get exhausted at the end of the day. You're generating all the time into language that's not your default, right? Not English, not French, and you still push to switch from one another countless of times in a day and expect to be okay. And sometimes you're just not okay just because of that. And so how can we again be more empathetic towards that and understand that, okay, you know what, maybe not doesn't pronounce perfectly. It's okay. We understand the point. And that doesn't diminish the knowledge or the value that the person brings to the team, right?
That's so nice to hear about linguistic insecurity like that because it can be difficult sometimes. And you had to learn two languages, not just one. At least in Vancouver, we learn English.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have, we're privileged that we are in the capital region, and with that comes the responsibility of speaking the two languages. So, especially in the bilingual university, that's the University of Ottawa.
Our session is coming to an end. It was really great and I learned a lot. I'm really glad for our time together. Is there something else that we didn't touch on that you would like to add to the table?
I think in closing, just to like reiterate the same message, I'm grateful again, and for everyone that's listening, be grateful. Take advantage from the people that are going to open those doors for you. Be able to name them, identify them, and leverage them intentionally to help you build your career. And I think that at some point, like also realize everything you've got and pay forward, right? At least me personal, that's where I'm at in my career as well, is that I'm realizing that with the representation, it comes a responsibility as well, right? It's double fold. Like I feel I have to represent, and at the same time, now I feel I have to give back or pay forward to the community. So I think those are the two key messages that I wanted to leave you with today from my own experience. So enjoy the journey.
Thank you so much. That's such a great last word. Thank you for your time and we see you soon.
Thank you very much.